Hello, people. Hope you and your loved ones are safe and healthy and happy. Have you heard of vitamin B12 and vitamin D? If yes, how much you know about them? So today we are going to understand in detail about these two micronutrients and how they are helpful for us, and in case of deficiency how it is going to impact our quality of life. So vitamin B12 is a water soluble vitamin. So it's a micronutrient which can get dissolved in the water. So what is the need that we have for vitamin B12 is that it helps in formation of red blood cells and the DNA. And it's also a key player in the function and development of brain and nerve cells. So vitamin B12 is also needed for the absorption of protein that we intake. Okay, so what happens when your vitamin B12 is low? You might end up having constipation, diarrhea, loss of appetite, or gas formation or bloating in your stomach. So there can also be nerve problems like numbness, tingling, muscle weakness, and problems with your walking as well. You might also have a vision loss. Okay, so mental problems like depression, memory loss, or behavioral changes can also be noticed in the person when you have a vitamin B12 deficiency. So you might be wondering, how will I know when I'm lacking vitamin B12? So when you have vitamin B12 deficiency, you have a strange sensation and numbness and tingling on the hands and legs and feet. Okay, and you struggle to get a proper balance in your walking, and you might have anemia, that is loss of blood in your body, and you also may have a swollen and inflamed tongue, that is you have a bloated tongue, and difficulty in thinking and reasoning. This is a cognitive difficulty that many of us suffer when we have B12 deficiency. And there can also be a memory loss with the person who has a vitamin B12 deficiency. And person may constantly feel weak and tired and fatigued, so that there's lack of interest for that person to do any kind of an activity. And very, very important is that if you are a women, then you might skip a menstrual cycle, or you might have too much of bleeding in your menstrual cycle as well. So do check out whether you have a vitamin B12 deficiency. How do I increase my vitamin B12 intake? So you have to consume food or vegetables which have maximum vitamin B12 in them. So what are they? So let's say example, non-veg or animal products have more amount of B12 compared to the plants. So because of the way they are grown and because of the amount of exposure they have in growing up. What are the food items which has vitamin B12 or beef, liver and chicken? So if you're a fishitarian, then you can eat fish, shellfish, and then such as salmon fish or tuna fish are also some of the good sources of B12. So if you are a vegetarian, then you have to consume fortified breakfast cereals, or you can have milk, yogurt and cheese. So these are the good sources of vitamin B12. So if you're an eggitarian, then eggs are a good source of vitamin B12 as well. So banana is one of the fruit which is very high in B12 vitamin. So along with vitamin, it also has very high fiber content. The recommended daily intake, that is RDI of vitamin B12, is 6 micrograms per day. However, it is seen that the researchers have also proved that 90% of people who follow either vegetarian or vegan diet always have B12 deficiency. So only way to compensate that is consume B12 rich food, or you can go for a supplement. So B12 is always recommended in the form of injection if it is too lesser to be compensated by consuming a right amount of food intake. People who are following these vegetarian and vegan diet can either balance their adequate vitamin B12 by eating the vitamin B12 rich diet, or they can switch to a supplement after consulting a physician. Okay, so when you are doing this, you don't have to worry about overdosage, because your body only absorbs the required amount of B12 and excretes the left out B12 through your urine, because it is easily soluble in water. So here is what you have to remember. Whenever you feel too fatigued, or you're skipping a cycle, or if you're overbleeding, or you have an unhealed wound, or you have constant feeling of tiredness or fatigue or muscle aches and pains, then it's high time you check your B12 and then make sure you are having adequate B12 in your body. So the second micronutrient that we are going to discuss today is vitamin D. So there are two possible forms of vitamin D in a human body, so which are vitamin D2 and vitamin D3. However, we simply call them as vitamin D because it is easy to comprehend and understand. Okay, so why we need this vitamin D in our body? So what are the warning signs that you have when your vitamin D is deficient? So here, vitamin D is a common vitamin deficiency that causes issues with your bones and muscles. So what are the signs and symptoms that you have when your vitamin D is deficient? So you constantly feel fatigued, you have a bone pain, and you have muscle weakness, muscle aches and muscle cramps, and you might have dizziness, headache, low energy and fatigue as well. And more importantly, it will also impact your mood changes, and it can lead to irritability and depression. Or if you are someone who is constantly worried about loss of hair or brittle hair, then that may be because of the vitamin deficiency, because vitamin D plays a very important role in stimulating your old and new hair follicles. So if you are experiencing alopecia, that's complete loss of hair, then you have to focus on checking your vitamin D level. How can I boost my vitamin D? So spend time in sunlight. That's the best way that you can get sufficient vitamin D. However, it is also called as a sunshine vitamin because sun is the best source of this nutrient. However, you can also consume fatty fish and seafood. So eat more of mushrooms if you are a vegetarian, and include egg yolks in your diet if you are an vegetarian, and eat fortified foods. So what are the good sources of vitamin D? Mushrooms is one of the best vitamin D source of vegetable. Okay, so especially when it is naturally produced, when it is exposed to sunlight. And spinach is something that is very rich in vitamin D as well. So here you can also consume oranges, and almonds are also good source of vitamin D. And you have oily fish such as salmon and herring. All these are a good source of vitamin D as well. So red meat, liver, egg yolks are some of the other good sources of vitamin D. Daily recommended dose of calcium is 600 international units for an adult. So if you are someone who is constantly taking supplements, you have to be conscious about the consequence of vitamin D toxicity. That is building up of calcium in your blood, that is hypercalcemia can also be led, which can cause nausea, vomiting, weakness and frequent urination. So vitamin D toxicity might progress to bone pain and kidney problems such as formation of kidney stones. So you have to be very conscious if you are taking supplements. Okay, so whether you are deficient of B12 or whether you are deficient of vitamin D, make sure you are taking supplements only after you have done your blood analysis and verified it through a physician who can prescribe it to you. So don't just pop in a pill because you feel you have a pain or you have a sensation of fatigue. So please remember this. We need an adequate dose of vitamin B12 and vitamin D. It is not overdose that we are looking at. So just don't go by whatever you feel like doing it. However, don't forget to check yourself if you are deficient, whether you are a vegetarian, whether you are a non-veg eater, or whether you are a vegan. Okay, so verifying and making sure that all these values are at the adequate level so that we all can live a healthy and happy life and a fitter life as well. So thank you so much. Do share in your experiences and your learnings and your signs and symptoms when you had some of these issues as well. So look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day. See you all soon. Thank you.